Imagine living in Africa thousands of years ago. You're part of a close-knit community, living off the land and following traditions passed down for generations. Then, one day, you hear rumors of new people coming from faraway lands, bringing with them new customs and beliefs. These people are part of the Bantu Expansion, and their migration is like no other in human history. New foods, new languages, and new technologies are just some of the changes this event brought to Africa. So, let's dive in and see how the Bantu Expansion shaped the history of Africa. The Bantu Expansion was a series of migrations carried out by the original Proto-Bantu-speaking people, originating from a region in West Central Africa. As these people moved to new territories, they encountered various existing groups, including hunter-gatherers and pastoralists. In these encounters, the Proto-Bantu settlers often displaced, absorbed, or integrated with the communities they met, leading to massive cultural and linguistic challenges across the continent. And let me tell you one thing, there's linguistic and archaeological evidence for this expansion. Yes, that's right. Many of the languages spoken across sub-equatorial Africa are pretty similar. This similarity suggests that the original speakers shared a common cultural origin. The heart of the Bantu languages, which are part of the Atlantic Congo language family, was found in the southern regions of Cameroon. But it's not just the languages that give us clues. Scientists have also found genetic evidence pointing to a big movement of people from Central Africa. During this migration, these groups sometimes mixed with local populations, adding more diversity to the communities they joined. So, when you look back, the Bantu expansion happened in at least two big waves, between 4,000 and 2,000 years ago. That's around 2000 BC to AD. Experts who study languages have figured out that the expansion went in two main directions. The first wave went around or right next to the northern edge of the Congo forest, heading towards East Africa. The second wave, and maybe even more, traveled south along the Atlantic coast of Africa. This took them to places like the Republic of the Congo, Gabon, Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Angola. Some groups even went inland, following the rivers flowing south to north in the Congo River system. Eventually, the Bantu-speaking people reached as far south as South Africa, likely as early as 300 AD. If we dive deeper into the expansion, we see that the spread of Bantu languages was not a straightforward journey. Instead, it involved many separate groups moving at different times. For example, both West African and East African Bantu speakers moved into Southern Africa in independent waves. In some areas, when these groups arrived, they completely replaced the local populations, which changed the genetic makeup of the region. However, in other places, the spread of the Bantu languages happened in a different way. Instead of replacing the local people, the newcomers mixed with them. As a result, the local people gradually adopted the Bantu languages, a process scholars refer to as language shift. This happened in places like Mozambique and among certain groups like the Limba in southern Africa. Before the Bantu languages were adopted, other African languages were spoken. Some of these are now lost, but traces remain in today's Bantu languages, such as the unique click sounds found in some local dialects. Now, let's talk about some theories regarding this massive migration. According to Bantu scholars, the Bantu expansion likely started in the highlands between Cameroon and Nigeria. This area includes the Mambila region, which covers about 60,000 square kilometers. It's said that while most Bantu speakers moved away, some stayed behind in this region. Archaeologists like Jean Hérault and Rigobert Touché have found evidence showing cultural continuity here from as far back as 3000 BC to the present day. Meanwhile, the Bamenda Highlands, just south of Mambila, also have a long history, occupied for around 2,000 years. Originally, experts thought that they could spot similar artifacts in these places the Bantu speakers crossed. They believed that agriculture, pottery, and iron helped the Bantu explore new environments. In 1966, historian Roland Oliver suggested these connections as a reasonable theory for the expansion. Additionally, the hunter-foragers, called Proto-Khoisan, used to live there, but over time many were pushed out or joined with the Bantu people. The Bantu learned new skills as they moved into eastern and southern Africa. For example, they started raising livestock like cattle, a practice they got from meeting other groups who spoke Cushitic and Nilotic languages. In fact, people were herding animals in the far south even before the Bantu speakers arrived. Different pieces of evidence like tools, languages, DNA, and the land itself all show how important the migration was. Bantu speakers moved out from the Cameroon and Nigeria border and spread throughout much of Africa. This movement changed where people lived and mixed different groups together, creating new communities. A recent study in 2023 involving almost 1,500 Bantu speakers from different parts of Africa confirmed that the expansion began about 4,000 years ago. It found that as they spread out, Bantu speakers welcomed many people from local groups into their families. An interesting bit of evidence comes from teeth. Some scientists think the ancestors of West African and Proto-Bantu groups might have lived in the Western Sahara long ago. They had to move south because the Sahara became a desert around 7000 BC. From Cameroon and Nigeria, these early Bantu people traveled to places like the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Gabon. As they moved, they became different groups, like the East Bantu and West Bantu starting around 2500 BC. It's also possible that some Bantu people went back to mixing with groups like the Igbo and Yoruba. So, between the 11th and 16th centuries, powerful Bantu-speaker states began to form. These states were much larger than local chiefdoms. Some of the early important kingdoms were the Kingdom of the Congo, which was located in what is now Angola in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the Benyoro-Katara Kingdom in the Great Lakes region. There was also the Kingdom of Mapungubwe in present-day South Africa and on the Zambezi River, where the Monomotapa kings built the impressive Great Zimbabwe complex. During this time, Swahili states like Lamu, Mombasa, Kilwa, Pate, and Malindi were established, and traded with inland kingdoms like Great Zimbabwe. As time went on, more of these state formations happened, likely because of denser populations that required more specialized jobs and strong military power to manage limited resources. Increased trade with other African communities as well as with European and Arab traders also encouraged these states to grow. Alongside this, technological advances and new ways of organizing political and spiritual leadership helped these states become even more powerful. And now, here's a twist in the story of the Bantu expansion. Some experts, like Manfred K.H. Eggert, believe that the evidence we have about the Bantu people moving through the Central African rainforest is not very strong. The archaeological findings are patchy and don't clearly show a large number of Bantu speakers entering the forest. Instead, these findings hint that we might not fully understand how or even if the Bantu people moved into these areas in large numbers. Another researcher, Zeitensticker, says there's a common mistake in linking Bantu language speakers with where we find Central African pottery. Many people assume that if we find early pottery in a place, it means the Bantu speakers were there. But this isn't necessarily true. This way of thinking has caused some misunderstandings because it confuses different types of evidence, languages, and pottery that don't always match up. Furthermore, there's been a heated debate among linguists about what Bantu really means. According to Zeitensticker, what started as a simple term used by linguists to describe a group of languages has grown into mean much more. Now, it's often used to talk about the culture, societies, and even races of people, which complicates our understanding. This change in meaning has made discussions around Bantu history even more complex and sometimes confusing. So, this was everything about the Bantu expansion, an important event in African history that shaped the continent as we know it today. Be it through the spread of languages, technology, or cultural practices, the Bantu people definitely left a massive impact on the continent. However, there are still many unanswered questions and debates surrounding this topic. Leave a like if you found the video informative, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more historical content. And one more thing, we love your support in the form of likes and subscriptions, but we would love it more if you could support us through supers. Thanks for watching.